Well, the summer comes to an end and now it's time to go back to school. But this first day can feel chaotic. That's why today we have an expert, VP of Operation of Young Innovators, Erika Seger, in the house. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you.
So let's break it down. So the start of the year, what do you see across in all the schools?
There's just a lot going on in the beginning of the school year. Just a lot of parents with just concerns. Their kids are going into like a new classroom. The biggest challenge sometimes is like from an infant classroom into a toddler classroom because they've had that one-on-one interaction with their teachers and they've been with them probably, the whole year, and then they're moving into a toddler room. And it's just, it's challenging as a parent just to be able to see your brand new baby growing into a toddler stage where they're being, curious and walking and doing those type of things. And it's also, being able to bond with someone new that, is going to be caring and teaching your child. So that's a big transition for our parent. Also transitioning just from like a toddler stage to a 2-year-old stage, or, preschool stage to a VBK stage, PBK to kindergarten, and even, kindergarten to middle school to high school. So transition and back to school is always challenging for families, but at the same time is also happiness because you're seeing your children blossom and, and changing into different things.
So the summer is more of an unstructured time. There's summer loss happening, learning loss, because there's not a structured wake-up time. And now back to school comes, and some parents might feel overwhelmed because the kids might not wake up at the time that they want. So what are some of those strategies that parent can start incorporating 1 week prior to the beginning of the school year?
So I think it just depends on the family. Everyone has their own structure in their home, and you have to be mindful to everyone's structure. But at the same time, being able to, give yourself grace and time. Let's say, for example, you're having to have your student at the school, let's say 8:00 in the morning. You don't want to wake up at 7:45 and try to get that little one out at that time. So being able to just be mindful and caring. I'm a firm believer that you have to provide that ample time for children to be able to just like reset and be able to do that and continue to have those structured times and routines with your children. And that is hard when you're in the summer and turning into, the school year, just because you're a little bit more relaxed in the summer. You're waking up a little bit later, maybe staying, up a little bit later than dad. Maybe a little bit too much TV time, or not enough time outside time, or all those different things. But it's important just to start your routine back on.
Well, I have good news for you, because we in the corporate department, we made a free resource for the parents that is a visual calendar with the routines on how to start the new school year. So it gives them a lot of ideas on, how to start a sequence in the morning routine, in the evening routine. Because sometimes what do we see in the schools? That the kids that come at peace or that are ready to learn, how do they act?
So when they're ready to learn, it just depends on the social and emotional part of the children and, and how they're starting their day. So I think definitely a morning routine or just a daily routine in general is great for not only home, but at school also as well. And I love the fact that, the corporate office has created those samples for parents, and they even have them like, for a boy or for a girl, what you would like. So definitely would encourage parents, if they do not have a routine at home already, they can have a visual cue in their homes for their children. And of course, they can create it to what their needs are. So it's always helpful when your child knows what's coming up next, because that is a habitual routine. And that is the most important part, when you are being just every day the same routine for your children is going to help them in the long run, because they're going to create those habits also as they get older.
And we emphasize a lot of the importance of that routine because routine reduces the anxiety, that separation. When kids know what's going to happen, then they're predicted. They know the sequence, what is going on in the next block, in the next. They don't have the concept of timing probably at a young age, but they know what's coming after. So having that same structure at home in the morning and in the evening is so important. So in the morning routine flashcards, parents can actually give very specific commands. Let's wake up. Let's be thankful. Let's go wash your teeth. Let's have a little breakfast. Let's get tired. But what if, I used to struggle with this. I know, thank God they're grown up anymore. But I wish I had the Raising Innovators podcast as a resource back then. And I know everything I know right now. But what would you do with a child that doesn't want to follow the routine? That, for example, some of the biggest struggles that parents have, they don't want to change into a uniform, or they don't want to change. They don't want to put those shoes on.
I think for those type of things, it just depends on your child. Again, every child's different, and there's always two choices, so you have to kind of pick your battles also as well. Is that as important? Always safety is your number one concern when it comes to children. And again, it just depends on being able to just see and let them know that they're being heard. But at the same time, for example, let's say you have someone that doesn't want to put on their shoes, and they've been all summer barefoot and running around, in the backyard and doing that. And now it's time to go back to school and they have to wear their shoes. You can wear your blue sneakers, or you can wear your red sneakers. You're going to wear one of those two, so you're giving them those choices and being able to explain to them, it's not safe for you not to wear shoes at school because this is a safety issue for you. So we want to make sure that you're being safe at school and you're being safe at home. So those type of things I think is very important. Speaking to children also, and, prepping them and giving them that just grace in regards to, we hear your feelings, and especially in the toddler age, that's a tough one when it comes to it, because you have some kids that are really rambunctious and, they want to be independent, and they're going to wear a blue shoe and a yellow shoe, and that's okay. And that might be something that you will want, but it's okay as long as they're wearing two shoes. Pick your battles. You might have the one that, doesn't want to brush their teeth, but wants to play with the toothpaste for, 5-10 minutes. So you might have to say, okay, well, we're going to put a timer, and your brushing your teeth is going to be 3 minutes. So let's do that together. So, giving them those choices, helping them feel like they're the ones that are in charge when really, you are making those choices for them and giving them those specific choices that you need to give.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the point of choosing your battles, and also having grace and with yourself as a parent, because parenting is very stressful sometimes. So I see that a lot of parents see you as this information source. So they go to you with all type of things, so that over the years that I've heard. So what are some of the advices that you would tell a parent that is overwhelmed in the morning, in the afternoon with this new transition? What advice, practical, you would give them?
I think the best advice that I can give a parent, and I joke around all the time and say I'm the hot mess express parent. I have 3 children, 3 different ages. My baby's going to be a 10th grader in high school. The best parenting advice that I can give a parent is show yourself grace and be able to be prepared. So if that means preparing their clothes at night, being able to have things ready for them, easy peasy. Just, you don't have to have a whole 5-course meal for them in the morning for breakfast. You would love to, right? But sometimes the day doesn't happen, and it's okay. You have to just give yourself grace as a parent, and be able to be mindful of what the situation might be in the mornings. You might wake up late, and your whole schedule changes, and that's okay. And give yourself time. Every parent needs to have their me time also as well.
Oh, that is so important. I'm so glad you touched on that. Before the kids wake up in the morning, having that a long time as with yourself, just to kick off the coffee, that tea, whatever, that meditation, that prayer, whatever you need to be in the right mindset and attitude to jumpstart the day for your child.
Those are habits that you're gonna. I'm a firm believer that those are habits that are very important, and those are habits that your children will see that will also make them important in their lives, and that's something that doesn't happen easy. I mean, my husband and I have been married for 22 years, and we've learned to create those habits that are for ourselves in order to be able to be more helpful as partners, but also more attentive and connective as parents, and also that helps us also in our profession as well.
Well, that is very powerful. So to unpack the advices that you've given so far, the importance of keeping the routines, because your child, when they are onboarding to a childcare program, they will be followed. They will have a routine. Good programs have a very specific structure throughout the day. So having that consistency between the home and the school environment is very important. We touch on the importance of giving grace to yourself and implemented these habits for yourself before you are with your kid. But let's talk about anxiety, separation. That's something that you see a lot in the new school year. So either the parent goes and drops the kid, but they're worried, they don't want to leave, that they feel probably guilty, right? That they're dropping the child, they're going back to work. So what is the best strategy for a parent that is starting in childcare when they're dropping off their child in school?
Short and sweet. It's short and sweet. The longer you stay, the harder it is for you and the harder it is for your child. We're blessed that, Young Innovators, we have camera access for the parents. We build that trust with the families. We build a school family. So, we have programs and different areas that we can communicate with the parents immediately. They're able to watch our cameras and see how their day is doing, their child is doing. But I would definitely say short and sweet. I love you. I'll be back to see you soon. Do not make promises that you're not going to be able to keep. So, for example, not establishing those habits either of, for any little thing, picking them up when it comes to it, because then you're creating that habit also as well. You have to be able to trust, right? That's the number one. And then number two is able to have that connection that is going to help your child blossom and grow in childcare or in a school. And then also for yourself, because, you've done your homework, you've done your research, and, you've searched and made that decision to take your child to the best, place that you want it, you've chosen to. So whatever the situation is, whether you're doing a nanny, a childcare center, a school, you've made that research, and you have to just, validate that.
You'll feel at ease. And short and sweet is the practical step.
Absolutely.
Because what happens when a parent lingers and stays in the classroom for a long time?
So, the unfortunate part is that when you linger, they're feeling like, okay, my parent's going to stay here, and usually the first week, it's okay. It's a little bit like, okay, 10 minutes, you have to go. But you don't want to make that into a habit. And then let me not even start with elementary school. Before in elementary school, you were able to walk in your child for the first day and do that. Yeah, not anymore. You're not allowed to go back there. It's drop off and bye. So, at least still in childcare, you're having that moment that you're still connecting with, walking them to the classroom, being able to have a familiar face that you're speaking to, that you're seeing that. And always go with your gut. Parents, that is something that sometimes you might reflect some of the anxiety that you're having to your child also as well. So you have to be able to be centered and be able to, feel okay. And then get hugs and kisses, and then be able to just, have that person that you can just contact or say, hey, I just dropped off my baby for the first time. I remember I dropped off my baby for the first time and I cried in my garage for 6 weeks. And I'm in childcare, but it's an emotional thing, but at the same time, it's something that is great for your children, and, they're learning, they're creating social skills, meeting friends, learning as a group and learning individuals as well. So, you're providing them the best education that you can for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, and then after that, when they pick them up, what are some of those routines that a parent can start at the beginning of the school year?
Always, I would say definitely, walking in. I love seeing like when parents walk in and pick up children, and I'm in any of the schools when the children see them and they're like, hey, and it's like, oh wow, like that is a wonderful thing. And I just spoke to one of the parents in our Winter Garden location, and I saw that it's a dad, and he walks in every time, and the little girl just raises her hands, and I said, I was watching the cameras, and I saw that every day this week, I was there, and I've seen it 3 times, and she does it. And he goes, that is our high five, hello TikTok we do, and I pick up every day. And I said, just keep on doing that. That is amazing. And it was even more amazing that it was a dad that was doing it, and he made that little routine with her and doing that. So
adorable.
that was absolutely like one of like the high points,
Yes.
for that day.
And then the key questions to ask in the car, when they're going back home, right? What are those questions? What did you do in school? But what if they don't tell you anything?
So, it's funny because, every parent always says, like, what did you eat? Tell me, what did you eat? How did you do? How did you learn? What did you learn?
Mm-hmm.
And you always want to open it up with open-ended question. Tell me about your day. Tell me about your day. They're going to tell you many different things. I remember, my little one used to tell me, I ate the macaroni and cheese, but every day he told me he ate macaroni and cheese. And I would say, you don't have macaroni and cheese every day. But he had his Nana's mac and cheese. So he was telling me something that he loved.
Yeah.
So then we started asking questions like, well, tell me, what did you do during, outside time? Oh, I was playing with the ball. But, you have to kind of have those open-ended questions for them so then they can see
Because they don't remember their memory. I mean, their memory span doesn't go very far from maybe the last go. So maybe having some prompts, going through the hallways, checking at the artwork that they did, and that will serve as a conversation startup. Followed by the routines when you go back home and have your dinner. So I think this has been an episode full of very practical tips for parents now getting ready this week to send their kids back to school, no matter how old they are, but especially with this focus on preschool. So anything else you would like to add that we forgot?
Give them a big hug, say a prayer for them, and, go on with your business and be able to do that. Happy choices, and always let them know, I'll see you soon. I'll see you soon. So that is something that is very special for them because they know that you're going to be coming back.
Well, the beginning of the school year is always an adventure.
Yes.
Entering a new season, a new age group, a new classroom, a new teacher. And it's one of the parents' great opportunities to get your child excited with the proper conversations and prompts. So we want to thank you all for joining the Raising Innovators podcast with Erika Seger today with practical tools on how to get your child excited about going back to school. And if you like the podcast, built for the community by educators passionate about making the difference and bringing future-ready education, do not forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and listen to our podcast anywhere you hear it. Thank you for watching.